Okay, so let's talk about three more types of seventh chords. And these last three seventh chords will actually make up our complete group of seventh chords. There are 7 seventh chords that you'll use in really all of music. All right, so we have, in this section, we have a C augmented seventh chord. We have a C half diminished seventh chord. And a C, what we call fully diminished seventh chord, or just C diminished seventh. Let's start off with the C augmented seventh chord. As we learned from our first video, if you take a C major chord, C major triad, and you take the top note of that chord and you raise it a half step, you have a C augmented chord. All right, C triad, take this note, which is G, take it up a half step, C augmented chord. Now, if we take the seventh of this scale, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and we lower it a half step to go to the flat 7, if we add that to the chord, we have a C augmented seventh chord. All right, the next chord that we have is a C half diminished seventh chord. Now we learned from our first video that a C diminished chord is where you take the E, you lower it a half step, and you take the G and lower it a half step. This is a C diminished chord. Now as we add a seventh to this chord, once again we add the flat 7 to the chord, which is B flat. So now we have C, E flat, G flat, and B flat. This is a C half diminished chord. And this is a chord that we use in gospel a whole lot. You hear that a lot. So a C half diminished seventh chord is C, E flat, G flat, B flat. And I'm going to explain to you why we call it a half diminished chord as soon as we go to this next chord. The next chord is a C fully diminished seventh chord. Now this one has a little bit of a trick to it. We take a C diminished triad. For the half diminished seventh chord, we have a B flat. For the fully diminished seventh chord, this B flat actually comes down to an A. And we have a C fully diminished seventh chord. Or some people just say C diminished seventh. Okay. The seventh of this scale is B. When you lower the half step, you have a C half diminished scale. A C half diminished chord. When you lower it a whole step, so that means we come from B down to B flat and down to A. That's 2 half steps down, which equals a whole step. We get to a C fully diminished seventh chord. So those 3 types of chords again are a C augmented seventh chord, where we take a C augmented chord and we put a flat 7 on top. A C half diminished seventh chord, where we take a C diminished triad and add a flat 7 on top. And a C fully diminished seventh chord, where we take a C diminished triad and add in what we call a double flatted seventh on top, meaning it was lowered 2 times, 1 half step and another half step. C fully diminished seventh chord. So go through your other keys. Start off with the first chord in each key. That's the only chord you need to do, because that covers all 12 keys when you go through all 12 scales. You go through all 12 scales, take the first triad, and build these 3 new seventh chords. C augmented seventh, C half diminished seventh, C fully diminished seventh. So altogether, we have our 7 seventh chords. We have a major 7, a minor 7, a dominant 7, a minor major 7, an augmented 7th, a half diminished 7th, and a fully diminished 7th. It's very important that you go through all keys and figure out all the possibilities as far as 7th chords. And I encourage you to write them down. Take a sheet of paper or take flashcards and write all your chords down. That way you'll be able to refer to them as you come across them in music. Now these 7 type of 7th chords covers all of music that you hear. Later on we'll get to inversions of these chords, and we'll get to larger voicings of 5 and 6 and 7 notes and more of these voicings. But for right now, go through all your keys and figure out the 7 possibilities of 7th chords for each major triad.